Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi. I go by Mars Swan on the internet, and of course I'm joined by the superb good brothers of Initialize and Nymera. Gentlemen, this series, V3 versus CGA, is proving to be a very, very exciting one, and I guess I can't call this one as I was expecting the 3-0 for V3. So my prediction's out the window completely. I'm still on V3 win, but now my prediction's out the window.
Imagine all these analysts saying that CGA can't win on red side. Like, that's just...
I
think that's results-based analysis. Yeah. I think it's stupid. I think you should never say that kind of thing live on broadcast. And CGA, you know, they're just proving everyone wrong.
Blue side draft advantage, a weapon to surpass the Metal Gear. Apparently proven wrong by Solid Snake CGA over here.
Good reference there. I like that.
So I have to say, coming out of that game one, and it is only game one, this series can go any number of directions from this point.
So
it's a best of five, and best of fives are so fun to watch in the competitive scene. It really kind of gets those cogs turning in your head and thinking about, well, what do you think about in the next draft? What do you think about in terms of how would you fight this fight if it came up again?
So
the good thing for me is that Grendel played really well that last game.
Yeah, he did.
So gentlemen, let's take it onto the idea of what do V3 need to be doing to actually take a win? Because they were the ones that was very far behind, and CGA looked rather dominant from arguably level 1. So
that's a really good comment. Well, let's circle level 1 and say don't int under that one. That would be great. Level 1, right? That would be a great start.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I'm actually trying to think of a better level 1 champion than Braum. There's Braum and Morgana. Those two. Don't level 1 a Braum. Don't 5-man stack. It ends up being very bad. It ended up giving over a lot of pressure. We saw that steal on DFM. One of my criticisms with him is that it feels like it's very easy to get under his skin with a level 1. Maybe V3 are a team which suffers from that too. Yeah. They didn't find the openings that they sometimes do.
Going into champs are like for pick and ban phase, so let's find out where these teams decide to go.
I love when we're just kind of like randomly on the timer. It's like, oh, pick a man time. So
yep.
Back into it again.
V3 once again on blue side, and that means we've got the Blanc band away alongside Sejuani and Lee Sin away from Boogie. Senna out of the way as well now. None of these picks are surprising me thus far.
All of these were banned in the last game. I'm wondering if they were the same order. I can't remember if the Lee Sin was a second round ban or a first round one, but it is still the LeBlanc, Sejuani, and this time the Renekton. If we had a bit more time to talk, I would have mentioned the Renekton being so good for Nap, and it was also really good in the series yesterday. Yeah, obviously, thank you for Mass One for leading us in there. Sorry for cutting you off. Just the champion select just kind of happens when it happens.
It does.
Felios is left up this time because the set was banned by CGA. This is a very worthy first pick for a lot of LJL teams.
Archer knows what he's doing on that champion tee.
He absolutely does. FLS has so many different options to play around. You can get yourself something like a Gravitum Gum, which allows you to set up for the rest of your team, or any of the big damage weapons you can get in those combinations. What is CGA going to respond with?
Well, there's a Zoe left up at the minute alongside a Varus, and that means Gango's going to probably be picking up the Varus that we have seen it flex, and Yoshi's going to go towards his Jarvan, which he's looked very good on in recent weeks.
Absolutely right, and I was saying that when they locked in the Trundle, I was like, well, actually, it was his Jarvan that he looked most comfortable on in the last series before that. And well, in one of the games, he certainly looked very comfortable on it against Rascal Jester. He was a bit exploited in one of their losses as well. Varus makes a first appearance for this series, has been very strong in its own right, but it does mean there's no Kalista for CGA. Look what's locked in for Boogie. Or for Ace.
Well, time to be kind, rewind. Let's go for a run back. Boogie has got his hands on Echo. Does pretty dumb things with this champion. Has a bit more CC. Can dive a bit harder. And I think probably... difficult to say because Nidalee does scale pretty well. But I think probably Echo's a little bit more consistent in the later game.
I very much like what V3 are doing with this. They're getting themselves a priority bottom lane. Archer and Reyna couldn't really achieve much in that last game. Aphelios and Thresh are a huge kill lane. They have a lot of team fighting potential as well. And then you have Thresh hook into the likes of the parallel conversions with the Gravitum help of the setup as well. If anyone has been following V3 in particular in the regular season but didn't see their round 1 playoffs, Ace also plays Echo as well. This is a flex pick for V3.
I called this out in the podcast way back when we did our 8th episode, and I said Maokai's looking like it's coming back potentially. It is locked in here.
It is. So V3 trying to be lumberjacks this game. Maokai makes his way onto the rift for CGA. Probably for Nap. Nap is one of the better tank players in the LJL. If you go back to last season, in particular, he was playing stuff like Shen, playing stuff like Cho'Gath, which you brought out a couple of times in this split as well. Maokai is very much in his wheelhouse. It allows him to team fight very effectively.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's also something I think might be a good kind of pseudo counter to Zoe if V3 wanted to go that way as well. Can just jump on her as she portal jumps forward. We know Ace has gone to that one, so potentially means they are free not to ban something like the Zoe as a Yorick ban comes in as a last ban for CGA.
I mean, okay, so that's normally a ban versus Afterman. Paz is not really the guy to pick up the weird stuff. Paz, for those of you that don't know, had 4 picks in the top lane throughout the entirety of the regular season. He played Aatrox, Ornn, Renekton, and I'm trying to remember the 4th one. It might have been Ornn.
No, you said Ornn. He's got twice. It's
Ornn,
so nice to say it
yeah.
twice.
I should really had that list on hand, but he hasn't played that many champions this split. Grendel's going back to the Braum. He was very hard to remove from the map in the last game. This time it will be against a harder lane. Won't have the Kalista to really start jumping forward, springing forward, and then also have the Fate's Call as well. And it will be versus a Thresh and an Aphelios, which, as we were saying earlier, a very strong 2v2 lane.
They really, really are. And we're going to see what the response here will be. The last 2 picks from V3, looking at a Mordekaiser pick.
I like that.
And we had we saw a bit of a conversation. So Maple Street is one of these analysts and kind of ex-players who does live out over in Japan. He's quite interested in investing in the Japanese league as an ex-coach out there as well. As V3 may look in the Jace again. But there was some conversation, particularly for DFM, is that maybe instead of something like the Gnar, they could have gone towards something like a Mordekaiser at some point, was a potential suggestion. So I'm kind of happy to see it come back
Mordekaiser is pretty good versus tanks, has obviously all of that kind of innate spell vamp in his kit. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that Mordekaiser can do. And then, well, see, if you think about Maokai trying to dive into the backline and disrupt the team, what happens if he's just taken into the Death Realm and Aphelios gets a free hit on the rest of the team?
Nasty things, I think, is my response. Of CJ have saved their last pick here. We've seen Maokai flexed around, as has Varus, and it will be a Varus in the mid lane.
Right. It will be indeed. So, MF, Braum, pretty good. Braum can put up the door and defend the bullet time as it goes down. One thing which we have talked about Varus in the podcast and other kind of material is that Varus obviously has the ability to be flexed around both in build and position. We see it poke mid or poke or on hit in the bot lane. This time it's going to be in the mid lane, so most likely going to be that poke artillery build, which can be good versus Jace, because he doesn't exactly have any sustain in his kit.
Nope, he probably has a corrupting pot, and that's going to be about it.
That's about it. However, now I'm a little bit worried for Adia because he normally plays a lot of very mobile champions, and playing against Boogie, who is on the Echo, there are ways to exploit this Varus.
Yeah, and there's double AD carries for this guy to get onto as well, though he will have to find his way past a Braum, a Jarvan, and a Maokai, all of whom bring a plethora of CC to the table.
They do. So I think that Paz has a lot of burden on his shoulders this game to make sure he takes out the right person in the team fights with the Death Realm, ends up taking apart the team comp from CGA.
So, genuine question, is he going to want to take out one of the front lines, or does he just want to flash onto this Varus or this Misfortune and try and blow them up in the Death Realm?
I think it depends on how the game is going to that point. You know, if you're on the front foot and you can just remove one of the tanks, so there's no one for Adia and Gango to stand behind, it could just be a bit of a free kill as the rest of the team backs off. If you can remove the jungler from around an objective, of course, that is one of Mordekaiser's stronger facets as well, so there's no smite available. There's a lot of ways you can do things. Also, it's worth noting that even just taking the Braum out, so there's no peel available for this double AD carry, can be very important too.
Well, I am expecting some fairly weighty team fights from both of these squads. I don't necessarily know who I could advantage. Probably a stronger front line, at least for the side of CGA, even if I think there's perhaps a touch more volatility on the side of V3.
I think it depends how fast the game is going. In a fast-paced game, I think V3 have a lot of the advantages, whereas CGA kind of want to slow things down, which we haven't always seen out of them, but after game 1, which, as a reminder, breaks V3's win streak, it is ended at 8-0. CGA played last game relatively calmly. They had poise. They knew that they could kind of walk in and take the fight.
Speaking of walking in, CGA try to find a bit of a tricky invade, but they're on a ward and V3 are ready. They're going to be another level 1 shenanigans. Archers on the side. Boogie gets caught with the hail of arrows, but that will be about it. Sweepers out. Ward advantage, and the game's over. Gold advantage, XP advantage is there. I don't know what on earth V3 are going to do from this point. It's just completely gone.
Who knows, son? Who knows?
Yeah, so the real weapon to surpass Metal Gear, it's a sweeper at level 1.
Wow. Well, let's sweep that under the carpet as we talk about the rest of the game. Boogie's going to start on...
Did you just wow me? Sorry, just going to bring that back. Did you Owen Wilson me right there? I think that's his last name. I forget.
It is Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
No, I know my memes. So CGA are actually
Stone
looking for a lane
award,
invade
by
here.
the way.
What this means is that Echo starts W at level 1. This could be a pretty big stun here, but it
Level
is versus
3v3. Here comes the conversion
no.
start. Yoshi is just dead. They didn't realize he was still on the ward. That sweeper. They thought they picked out. Grendel has to flash as well. This time the level 1 invade is stymied by V3. It seems like a mirror image of the last one.
This is huge. So there's a Ravenous Hunter stack available for the Echo. I think it's up there for the Jace as well, which really helps.
Blood.
Jace gets first blood. There's then obviously the jungler dies from CGA, means that his start is going to be oh so delayed, meaning that Boogie might even try and go for some vertical jungling, going into the other side of the rift to try and take away some camps away from Yoshi as well.
Yeah, okay, and we're looking at some summoners down. Grendel burnt his flash. Reyna used the ignite, but I would take an ignite for first blood trade alongside a flash any day of the week.
Absolutely, and it means that even Yoshi has to smite his first camp as well.
Oh, that's so obnoxious. He's thinking about going for a level 2 gank though onto Paz, who's pushed up. Might get this for free. Naps here has got the level 2, so will have the twisted advance. It's used. Yoshi's coming in, and I think Nap is still alive. Paz goes down. Yoshi finding his way back into the game in pretty swift order. Well played by him.
Yeah, so that is very opportunistic. Normally you think it's going to be about catch-up when you end up dying early into the game. This does mean he's not farming during this time. Boogie's managed to get a full side clear down on his red side. Yoshi is trying to look into the top side, but then chooses to back away.
Ace takes a pretty big trade there from the arrow. The W empowerment on those Qs can be pretty difficult to deal with, and it is the Comet on that Varus. Pretty standard tech for, of course, the mid lane. Varus is Boogie's here in the mid lane, thinking about going for a gank, just hops over the wall, and that'll be the end of that.
That will
but
be the end of that.
The only reason I bring up the Comet is because, of course, Yutori Miyashi did run the Hail of Blades poke Varus the other day, so perhaps it's not necessarily as much a given as we had taken it to be.
So I think the idea with Hail of Blades, Varus, when you go for the poke, is that if you do go for Berserker Greaves alongside the Hail of Blades, it allows you to stack up to your 3 stacks of Blighted Quiver very quickly.
And then pop it with the arrow.
And then pop it with your first ability. And that only really helps with, like, if you can stand and fire. I think that if you're trying to trade poke for poke against something like a Jace and also the Aphelios with the turrets and chakrams and stuff like that, the Comet does give you more value. And of course, if you're just hitting your skill shots, the amount of damage you rack up throughout the game is pretty hilarious. I remember, in fact, back when Poke Varus first made its appearance on the poke scene, on the pro scene, rather than the poke
on
scene.
the poke. Well, you're not wrong. It was very much a poke meta. Jace mid was a thing at the time.
But I remember that some players were out damaging entire enemy teams on that channel.
Kuro, for example, way back on the Rocks Tigers, Faker as well.
Yeah.
This is season 5 days, I suppose, season 6.
So, Arya looking to channel those kind of performances. He's had some massive performances as his own. As a reminder, we kind of tracked our players of the week in each role throughout the regular split. Boogie came out on top in jungle, and then Arya came out in top in the mid lane, although Boogie had more player of the weeks overall between all the roles, meaning that he was our player of the regular split.
Yeah, he was kind of our regular season MVP. That won't be the overall MVP. We'll do one post-playoffs as well. But for now, that's kind of matching out. Boogie out to an early lead, even Yoshi turned around. Hook lands onto Grendel, but it's just a little bit of a trade going on. Archer gets Gravitum up and stops Gango in his place. But Yoshi is here behind off vision, looking for a lane gank, potentially, if Archer decides to step forwards. Reyna does have the Lantern, though, so they'd have to be fairly swift with their engage.
So, actually, Yoshi choosing to go back towards the Gromp, he's seen on a ward on that bot side, not something which we pointed out before. It means that now Yoshi is at a level disadvantage, a camp disadvantage, and he's just so far behind the pace of the game, even though that Maokai did end up getting a kill assist on the top side for his efforts.
Yeah, and Gango is down about 20 CS at this point as well, really struggling with his support being down that flash. And Archer and Reyna playing with a lot of confidence and poise in this lane right now.
And we haven't seen much misfortune in playoffs so far. It's not been a pick which a lot of these teams are going towards.
No.
We saw in the series yesterday, it was Varus, it was, we saw a bit of Kaiser as well and all the other stuff. And but it wasn't, and of course the Aphelios is still kind of hanging around the LJL meta, even after all the nerfs have come through. It is, of course, patch 10.5, not 10.6,
Yeah.
which means that not all of the nerfs have come through.
Yeah, and Boogie here, starting up an Ocean Drake, as we'll probably continue to talk about this. I don't think or CGA rather are going to contest CGA. Don't really have the pressure to be around at the minute, and also worth saying that, you know, I think part of the reason we're not seeing as much Misfortune is not necessarily the nerfs that she's had. She's not had that many. I don't think she's been that. That's been the thing. But things like Leona getting nerfed a little bit, and a lot of
not being as strong.
Yeah, exactly. Just being these kind of champions that were around her, those items that were around her, being a little bit nerfed does make a big difference. And of course, it was Misfortune and Leona, which was that really powerful duo way back at the beginning.
Yeah,
of
and
the
we ended up seeing more Misfortune Nautilus actually towards the end.
Yeah,
of the split.
that's true as well.
Because Leona in the first couple of weeks, I would have agreed with you, but that kind of fell off as the split went through.
Yeah, they did. And you know, part of that was Nurse, part of that was Leona going in and then not being able to come out
Yeah,
in pretty spectacular fashion.
Teams just realizing, oh wait, Leona can't do anything once she's in the fight. Like, you end up having to win the fight or die very, very hard trying. Boogie's actually slipped out of vision here, made it into the bottom row of a bush, wasn't seen on the wave either. They might be able to track him as well. They know that the top laner, Scuttle, is down, so obviously they took that, which means that Boogie won't be on that side of the map going around the river at least. Boogie actually recalls.
And Archer and Reyna throw down a Sentinel turret, continuing to shove in, just hunting for plates right now. So that's a decent double up onto Archer.
Taken like 2 or 3 of those.
Fair amount of damage. Misfortune can do fair amount, like heavy damage with those double up, especially if he gets the guaranteed crit from killing the minion on that Q. And
Also,
doing the best to keep Archer accountable, even if he has come up with that early lead.
So it's worth noting
Yoshi had to run into Boogie.
He will have the combo available. He's actually managed to catch up a lot in farm after the rest of... Oh, there's some Chains of Corruption available here from Boogie.
Thinking about going in about this one. The Piercing Arrow is available. Parallel Convergence goes down. Thinking about going forwards, does step in. Ace is around as well. Reyna's over the wall. And I think this is looking like the end of this invade right now. Archer still hasn't backed, by the way, but neither is this Misfortune.
No, he has not. So actually, it is just a killer piece of both these teams. Gold very even once again. We thought it might be a bit more bloody coming into this series. Both these teams like to fight over...
Had a feeling.
Yeah, we know that these teams can certainly end up being fighting over everything and nothing, and kind of coming out with advantages without the objectives attached to them. But it's very fun to watch as a spectator. But this game, it is once again very even, very measured, not necessarily going for all of these big fights. But now with the level 6, the Chrono Shift the Chrono Break rather, available for Echo. Maybe we'll see a change in that.
Yeah, well, he's certainly going to be trying to use that to break this game open. That early first blood involvement certainly helped him out a little bit in that early levels, but I actually want to give credit to Yoshi as well for finding a pretty swift response back. That was really smart.
If you go back to like week 4, 5, Yoshi, he probably would have fallen apart at this point in the game. I think he's shown immense growth as a player throughout the last couple of weeks. We questioned him through actually most of the split, I think it's fair to say. We said that he was a weakness for CGA, and he is showing himself to be a strength in a lot of these games.
And to continue some of our storylines, we probably have to leave them to a bit later, actually, because Nap and Yoshi are around this Rift Herald, but they don't contest in the way I thought they might be looking to do.
Sure, no.
We can run back to storylines, continue.
Yeah, because, you know, there are multiple players in this game where we had questions about their form, their ability.
Yeah,
Ace in the mid lane for V3, he was my last placed mid laner in our power rankings. Boogie, Arya was the first, of course, in that mid lane. And then, of course, on the other side, Grendel and Yoshi were people that we have questioned quite a lot as well. Grendel, I don't think has had a bad game in playoffs yet. Obviously, the 5-game series against Rascal Jester, and then game 1 of this one as well. And then, of course, the tiebreaker as well. That's like 7 games on the trot where he's ended up playing well. Reyna just did the Lantern
Gank, thinking about just faking out Gango and Grendel, who did back off fairly swiftly there.
Man, I love Reyna's Thresh, man. This guy has so much style points on that pick. I absolutely love what this guy does on the champion.
Really
we saw
true.
it, in fact, I remember back in the first matchup in the regular season after CJ had gone on a tear in the early weeks, we were thinking, oh man, CJ looking like our second best team maybe, but they're facing against V3. Archer and Reyna had a standout performance in that game in their win over them then, and it was Reyna on the Thresh. It was Archer on the Xayah that game, not on the Aphelios, but a similar crit AD carry, and Reyna just kind of styled on them.
Speaking of rookies, actually, as well, like we talked about Yoshi and Grendel. I think Archer as well is someone we want to pick up as well as someone who is actually coming into as a rookie. We saw that last game; he looked a little bit out of sorts on that Kai'Sa. Wasn't quite as
the laning phase was not easy.
Not easy, and you know, we've got to sort of keep an eye on him as well in this playoffs. As Reyna lands a hook, thinking about going about the Misfortune bullet time. does a fair amount of damage to turn that around, but
with half a minute to go for Dragon, that means they won't have the bullet time to play around.
Yeah, Gango perhaps pulling the trigger a little early there, and Aphelios has held on to his ultimate as Yoshi and Arya coming down, but they're going to be walking across a ward. Archer is fairly safe because there's in fact a dark passage available. So
There is, and Reyna's presence of mind in the
the ability or in general.
The idiom, the phrase, I've used poise. Seeing as I've used poise too much to one like, oh, the thoughts which are going through his head, which mean that he is expecting this thing to happen.
Preparation.
His preparation has been good on the Dark Fantasy. Hindsight, sure. That's no, it's not hindsight. It's more about foresight. Foresight. His foresight on the Dark Passage has been really good on the whole. There are plenty of ones, and Archer. Oh, actually, we see a cleanse away from Ace though.
Yeah, and using the Rift Herald there, cleansed away from Ace. Mountain Drake is up, and V3 are in position using this Rift Herald to ensure some control and priority over this mid lane, as Ace takes a pretty big trade from that piercing arrow.
He does, but now with the Chains of Corruption down, I wonder whether V3 will be emboldened to go towards something like this Dragon. Maybe they don't want to get poked out around this objective. With the resets coming in from Gango, actually coming back with more items.
Caulfield's Warhammer.
Yeah, he's come back with a couple of items here. Maybe they will look to try and just delay once more, get themselves a slightly more favorable position. They now have the Scuttle Crab to play around.
If they can delay for 30 seconds, CGA, though, they'll have Misfortune's bullet time back up, and it's looking more and more like V3 may have to back off some really good poke.
I think the timing window's gone for V3 to take that dragon,
I agree.
Actually. As we saw the bot lane had recalled. Nap has not managed to reset just yet on the Maokai. After the first blood, nothing really happened. I don't think the Observer's even gone back to top lane because it is a wet noodle fight.
It is a little bit as Nap gets pulled into a death's grasp, but it's not really death so much as sort of a mild nausea.
Discomfort.
Yeah, mild nausea coming through. That's about as much as you've got. Like CGA do have position around this Drake though, and they're going to start it up.
They will. What this means is that they don't have the position to start poking out around
Parallel
this.
convergence going in. Teleport's here as well. Boogie's going in. Teleport channel from Nap as well. This is huge. That's a big ultimate onto Misfortune, but she's throwing back that huge
damage
as well. But Yoshi now in trouble. Death's Graph is and the Death Realm there. Archer goes down to the back line though, and that means that Boogie is huge. Gets over the wall again as well. Now Paz is stuck on that side. I think he's potentially going to die. Arya going to throw a fairly big piss. Boogie is a monster. Gets over the wall. Is still here. Arya now on the other side. And gets him with the piercing arrow. It's a 3-for-1 in the end. Double kill for this Varus. Boogie pulling off
3 for 2 because Yoshi did go down.
Yoshi did go down as well. I apologize.
Okay, so actually a lot of fireworks flown off from both sides there, but on the whole, actually the consistent damage of CGA coming through in the clutch. Arya now with 2 kills on the Varus, lots of arrows landing. Picked up the kill onto Boogie as well. I'd imagine that might have even been a shutdown with the amount of gold he had in the early game. We're gonna go through the replay here. CJ starts on the Dragon. Boogie wants to go in with the parallel convergence. Ends up going towards this. He has a 2-level smite advantage, but it's the W piercing arrow from Varus, which actually picks it up with the execute damage. The Death Realm goes on to Yoshi, but Arya is still here, just kind of wailing on the Jace, doing a lot of damage throughout the extended team fight and not really under threat. Boogie with a second parallel convergence ends up flashing forward onto Gango, just on the edge of the parallel convergence. That is a hitbox. Grendel gets out, but then there's just like no way for him to go back out. Already used the chrono break to try and get a little bit of HP and a little bit of damage onto Yoshi earlier in the fight.
And Varus is now up to a massive CS lead actually in this mid lane post that fight. Got a huge amount of pressure on that mid lane with what was going on in Gango. Just avoids that death sentence, which would have been just that dark passage. Death passage would be a very different ability.
Also worth noting that Archer just got completely sold out in that fight. Ended up somehow into the back line, getting damaged by the entirety of the team as CGA. Didn't get all of the damage down he would have liked. He still had flash available, worth noting.
He put a Moonlight Vigil only onto Gango through the grabbed him up. Arya is going to get away with the Ghost Blade active and needed to use that though. Was in a bit of a tricky spot. And throws a piercing arrow as a kind of farewell present as another bullet time comes through to dissuade engaging onto Grendel, who's now at like a 3rd HP post that. Ouch.
But with the Legends Bloodline available from Aphelios, it doesn't really mean that much. All it is a cooldown gone. It doesn't even end up wave clearing the wave which is coming in now, which will probably buy the turret for V3 first turret of the game in this second game in round 2, match 2.
Yoshi starting up the Rift turret on the other side of this map, though, as V3 continue to look towards that turret at the bot lane. Do get first turret out of this, which is a fairly big deal.
But
Aria's
Herald's
turret,
on the top side, so they will probably secure themselves a tower at some point in this game.
I completely agree. And I've just realised, I've had a revelation.
Okay.
Legends never die. Think about what the Legends abilities are in the rune pace. They're all about helping you not die. It's brilliant. It's there. Riot have played the 3D chess. It's superb.
So, I mean, there's tenacity, there's attack speed, and
bloodlines.
I mean,
This is all there. This is it.
I mean,
This is how you stay alive. I found.
Okay, right. We can go really deep into that if you want, because like there's an argument to be like, oh, attack speed doesn't help you not die. Oh, I guess it could help you not die, but you can say that about any kind of stat. Let's get back to the game. I'm done wasting brain power on this.
Wasting, my friend. This is what your brain power should be thinking about. These are the kind of important philosophical questions.
My brain is not
nearly
League
of Legends.
My brain is not nearly big enough to deal with all of this kind of computing power needed. We see Boogie down towards the bot lane. Ace is down there too. Boogie's actually might be able to catch that Gango. There's no flash.
He's got to go out. He's just slowed down.
Oh, the stun's there.
Not enough. He's going to go down. There is all the damage.
He's alive.
He's alive. Gango. Boogie goes down. Gango gets the double up. He's still alive. And now Archer and Reyna in so much trouble. Massive cataclysm alongside a bullet time. And Misfortune is exactly that for V3. How on earth did she live?
I have no idea. The chrono break was not used from Boogie. Tried to get that last auto in. Grendel with the clutch exhaust means that the damage is just not there. With 4 people removed from V3, this is going to be the outer turret going down from them. This is such a massive swing in pressure.
It really is, and I think that's just broken the game massively in favor of CGO. Going to come up to at least a 3,000 gold lead as they pick up both turrets in the mid lane.
Both turrets, and they're going to get a charge onto the third as well. I don't even... Oh, man, that Cataclysm follow-up from Yoshi, very salient as well. Really getting the most out of that situation.
So good!
This looks very, very good. I don't know whether they were pinging it, so the Parallel Convergence comes down. There's no Shock Blast from Ace. He goes immediately in. He doesn't even pop the Acceleration Gate. I wonder...
him behind the shield.
I wonder if they'd changed their ability slightly differently there. And, of course, the Shock Blast didn't even work out there in the end. Maybe if they change their ability slightly differently, something goes a little bit better. As it stands, the great follow-up Cataclysm with the bullet time as well. It's just, yeah, it's bad to worse for V3.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. You saw the shield there blocking all the autos out from the chase. The Shock Blast, that last Hammer Form E just knocking Gango to safety, it almost felt like.
Yeah, knocking on death's door there was Boogie and Ace going into the door of Braum. This is now going to be the second dragon of the game picked up for CGA. We didn't mention it before. It's an Infernal Rift this time in Game 2. Mordekaiser has himself somewhat of an advantage in the top lane now as well, has himself Leandri's Torment, building up to that tank shredding capability we know him to be able to do. He's taking down, probably going to be able to take down this top lane outer turret as well, get himself the second turret of the game for V3.
Now they're second Drake of the game for CGA, who picked up that Infernal Drake as well.
Yeah, I was mentioning that just beforehand, right? It's a trade of things on the map. It is, yeah, and the Infernal Soul is very powerful. Ace might be dived here.
He's gonna hold stuck. Out. He's like, no, he's got flash, the acceleration. Here comes the teleport. Goes on to Gango, who has got no summoners. He's actually got both summoners available. Stays alive even through the Cataclysm there. Passes by himself. Boogie's here. Big bullet time on to pass. Who has to put that indestructible. Stays alive. Flash forward for bullet time and just about survives. That was a pretty close. Grendel has gone golden, which I'm not sure is fantastic. Here lands the Moonlight Vigil, but it's not enough damage to get him. Okay. And Boogie is around the back, but that is a kill onto Ace and not a lot else right now.
Yeah, so Paz teleports in, immediately has to flash out. Yoshi had a bit of a I'm Jarvan, I'm helping moment as Gango was stuck in the tower. Didn't have aggro, luckily, but he was stuck there.
Down. Going in, he's on to Gango. He's got no summoners. In the back, he's had to parallel converge straight away. Those Archer took a huge piercing out of the face.
Yeah, he took pretty huge damage there, but at least it does dissuade CJ from pushing any further. Just a reminder, this is not with the Baron buff. It's not even available. They're just sieging because they can. They have the range and the front line to do that. Yeah, CGA just finding advantages in this game seemingly out of nowhere, as we have known them to do in the past.
And Gango looking significantly more, we'll use that word, poised at the moment than Archer, who's had a couple of slightly hypey moments where he's gone forward and been in a little bit of trouble. And actually also Arya with these poke, with this huge amount of poke coming out, is starting to chunk through some of the squishier members on the side of V3.
And Boogie, as much as we have seen his Echo perform miracles in the past, sat at 1, 2, and 2, has found some moments, but not everything has converted. The game is in a 3k gold lead state to CGA in the second game. If they were to win this, it would have to be a reverse sweep from V3, which is not something I think any of us predicted coming into today.
Not at all.
CGA just getting the better of all of these fights so far.
You know, it's serious power point for CGA as well. There is the Infinity Edge and the Essence Reaver complete for this Misfortune at 3, 1, and 5. There is a Ghostblade Umbral Glaive from Arya. His E steps forward and forces a pretty necessary Dark Passage out of Reyna.
With the amount of lethality and AD he's built up, I'm pretty sure Archer without a flash might have died to a W piercing arrow on the Hail of Arrows as well.
It would have been a fair amount of bladed clavers. Bladed quiver stacks would have been required, I think. But use that appropriately, I think. Yeah, you're right. Would have been a bit of a one shot available there.
There was also Yoshi within a screen's distance, and when you're a Jarvan with flash, that does mean you have like a very large engage range.
There is something to that. And this, I actually think this Maokai currently not done all that much, but come team fights, if he throws out his ultimate, decks the river with Boughs of Holly on this Maokai skin, could do a lot of work.
Well, so Paz has gone towards the Zonya's second on the Mordekaiser, which is slightly more about being a frontline instead of being able to solo someone out. If he'd gone maybe towards something like the Protobelt or the Nash's Tooth, I wonder if he could take out Gango or Arya from a team fight and start trying to solo them out. He is currently at a level advantage being a solo laner, level 14 right now, or the highest level in the game alongside Arya. But there's just so many items and stats on the backline of CGA. I wonder if he even wins a 1v1 now. He is building towards the Nash's Tooth, as I say, that has the Stinger in inventory.
He does indeed, and we're going to keep an eye on where that builds into. It will be the Nash's Tooth, of course, but we need to just wait and see where that comes through, because, of course, Mordekaiser will be at a much stronger point with the 3 items complete.
Yeah, absolutely will. And checking in with the rest of the items, you know, I mean, at least Aphelios has the Infinity Edge and the Renown's Hurricane. We're not seeing so much Essence Reaver from Aphelios in the LJL right now. It does tend to be the Infinity Edge for that straight-up burst damage, not necessarily there for the setup and cooldown reduction of the Essence Reaver.
And considering where the LJL wants to fight, namely those early dragons and Rift Heralds, you can understand wanting that straight up burst as early as you can get it.
Sure. And you know, speaking about these teams in their last series, right? I mean, Gango against Rascal Jesters was often playing second fiddle to Arts, who was actually, even on the losing team, our unofficial streams player of the series. We did decide that
so good.
He had a performance to remember, and Gango was playing somewhat second fiddle to him.
Yeah.
Not that he had a bad series, but this time Gango is definitely the person who has got the advantage.
With a QSS as well, which means Boogie's job is only getting harder and harder. And we already said it was going to be a little tricky for V3 to get past this front line onto these squishy members, as a dragon is spawning in 20 seconds, and V3 have also Archer with a decent flash, but he's been exhausted. Archer now in trouble, goes down to Arya, well played, and that pick is massive as the Infernal Drake is being spawned onto the Rift, and CGA have complete vision control over this river, and we know what that means for poke comps over the last couple rounds of playoffs.
And oh my god, we know that Arya can make plays, we know that Archer wants to make plays. The exhaust comes up clutch once more, even though there were 2 items onto the Aphelios, he just couldn't get enough work done. Reyna was not there in position to with a Dark Passage anyway. I wonder if that flash forward should have been a flash backwards.
What is the weapon of the faithful to the Church of Arya? Just decides to put him back in the place. Does Arya there? Such well played mechanics. That was some like nice idea by Archer to try and flash away, try and find a tricky angle. Just wasn't going to work.
And Arya hasn't died this series.
No,
2 games so far. Admittedly, it is only 2 games out of a best of 5, and as we said, series can change very, very quickly on any number of factors. But Arya has had 2 good games thus far. Maybe being the secondary carry for once behind Gango. We have been talking about how he's having a good game so far, but pulling out, you know, a lot of these flash chains of corruptions, lots of damage from the piercing arrows as well. He's gonna make his impacts on the end game damage graph.
All right, so CGA up in gold, up in turrets, up in Drakes. They're at Infernal Soul Point now, which will mean a pretty significant fight and flash point when that next Drake is summoned. What do V3 need to do to find a way back into this game? What options do they have?
So normally I'd say stuff about vision, about itemization, what you're looking in terms of item breakpoints. You want to try and maybe reach your next item, then start trying to fight. But the vision is massively in favor of CGA. At least they're going to clear out some of this vision around the Baron Pit, rather. And, of course, the Dragon is now down, so there's no immediate threat for V3 to be aware of in terms of objectives. If they get this mid lane outer turret, that's a good start. It will help them. Oh, Chains of Corruption just missed there again, actually. That's not for 2 in the last couple of minutes. But that arrow hurts so much!
Yeah, and we are seeing this. Varus has come
Also,
out on this patch
Can I-
for the LJL playoffs as a ridiculously strong pick.
And can I just say, there is something just very kind of Schadenfreude about having Archer killed by Varus. Because,
Not-
like,
is that Schadenfreude or is that just
I'm enjoying
sort of...
I'm enjoying his pain.
Oh, yeah, I suppose fair.
Because like Archer and then Varus being an Archer. You get that?
I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it's,
I like to spell things out for you
Look,
because you are you're the play-by-play.
But
I have to explain
you've got
things.
to go deeper because we grew up in Nottinghamshire. So Robin Hood is kind of our mascot, right? So surely you should be voting for the Archer.
For the
So
rest-
actually, that's
no,
a question: do you vote for the champion Archer, or do you vote for the guy named Archer?
I vote for Nottingham Ezreal skin.
Nottingham Ezreal.
Which is what I
yeah.
actually play when I play
That's
as
great. That's
champion.
great.
And yeah, speaking of all of these archery competitions and trying to fire these shots into the correct places,
Good
they're going to be
ward.
firing all of these bullets into the Baron as they start up the big purple worm in the top side of the map.
We'll see what V3 can do.
Look at
to
the
stop it.
vision here.
It is massive. There is the one ward that is causing a lot of trouble for CJ. It's giving
Boogie's
V3
being
some
zoned
options.
out.
Boogie is being zoned out. Archer's already down to about 2/3 HP. Ace is not doing all that much with these shock blasts either. He can't find his way through this front line at the minute. There's a sentinel turret down. Here come the Make It Rain. Comes
This
from
could
his
be big.
fortune.
This could be
Power
big.
Those chains corruption did nothing. Boogie's into the backline, but he's getting shut down. Didn't get to use the chrono break. Broken instead himself.
Oh, the
as
bullet
that
time.
time reigns hell down upon the side of V3, and it's all looking like a near enough clean ace. Paz is alive, Ace is recalling, but I don't think it's going to be all that long as Gango just about survives that last blast from the Jace. And I think that's all she wrote for now. CJ going to come out of a fairly significant lead. They don't take this Baron particularly quickly
Yoshi.
as Yoshi goes down very low and Ace is around. He's going to try and force them away. Gango is healed up. That's something. They're going to try and get onto Ace. That arrow lands, but it's not done all that much damage. Ace has got enough of a mana bar here to be a
Gango's
real
healed up.
trouble.
Oh,
the
the
exhaust
exhaust.
is in, but the cleanse came through. Ace has no flash. Does have a flash now and used it out of the way. Has still got the shot blast. He does delay the Baron
the
though,
Marco sapling.
which is, I mean, he's got saplings in the river. He needs to be really damn careful.
But Ace actually, against the entire array team of CGA, does dissuade them finally from taking the Baron.
I was
After
going to
that
call him
fight-
out. I didn't think he'd been having that great a game outside of the first blood, but that was so clutch to win that. Well, not win, but like at least hold them off. Right?
It was, but still, make no mistake, this trade has gone massively the way of CGA. The Dark Passage was actually timed out to bring Boogie closer to the fight. Chains of Corruption didn't even hit onto Boogie, but just with the arrayed...
The parallel convergence didn't get the shield.
It didn't get the shield, got exhausted, got everything. We've seen a couple of exhaust versus Echoes in the playoffs thus far. We saw it actually against Arya versus Rascal Jesters in their round 1 game as well. It can be so effective against these diving assassins. Paz with a worthy attempt at trying to take down Gango as the shock blast came through as well. Also,
Had
by
to
the way,
cleanse the Leandri's burn.
you actually can't do that with QSS. That was
Can you not?
completely erroneous.
No,
that
just
was-
erroneous. There you go. So today I learned you can't cleanse the burn from Leandri's torment.
you only
Torment cannot be
so-
cleansed,
so,
apparently. Very dark and edgy
You
of
can
Riot
only
Games.
cleanse things which are attached to a CC. So you can cleanse the attack speed slow on something like Nasus. Oh, let's talk about the fights.
Because Nap is around, Parallel Convergence is down, Boogie's around the back and he's not found his way in as a Cataclysm lands on 3 people. Rain has put down the box, but that bullet time is once again an absolute tsunami of pain. Paz is in a death realm, but I don't know whether it's just for himself. That's a big Graviton onto 3-4 people, but I don't think it's going to do much more, and CJ still have position around this Drake, but there is still poke available. Boogie's off the
Archer
side.
takes a huge
Archer
arrow.
does take a huge arrow, and he's been struggling to stay healthy in these fights. The chakrams are there, but he has a Severum. Boogie has
This
got a
would be
parallel
Infernal
convergence.
Soul.
It's here. That is right. It would be Infernal Soul. The fight continues. Boogie's taking so much
Gets
damage.
it!
Gets it! Boogie with a clutch smite and gets out! The Dark Passage is huge. Yes, Paz goes down to an arrow, but CGA are denied the Infernal Soul. They are going to turn back over to Baron, though, perhaps looking to make sure V3 don't get out with something as Jace is landing some decent poke to maybe dissuade them, but they are going to go in and at least put down vision.
I think someone needs to tell these competitors that, the whole idea is to shoot the apple off the head, not shoot them in the head with these poke builds. Okay, with all the saplings put down, with Maokai as well, just scanning out the area, being
No
able to tank
vision.
with this very... Arya is playing point guard here. He's trying to
Half
zone out.
HP.
but there could be a huge shock blast here still.
Yeah, Gango's stepping forward. He's got a lot of damage. Ace is so damn low, but Grendel actually may have stepped too far forward to survive with the
Chains of
break.
Corruption.
Chains of Corruption land onto Reina. They've frozen this Aphelios in place. The bars come out from Maokai. Boogie into the backline, still dies. That parallel conversion is shut through, and that bullet time is right back up because Misfortune reloads super quick. And bewitching she might be, but all she is doing is haunting the dreams of V3 right now.
Oh my
and
god.
the Comet doesn't land, but that would have been the death of Ace, and he has no health bar to even think about contesting this Baron anymore.
This is like, no, there is just no apple on the head. This is just like a person full of arrows at this point. Aria really on point, playing on this Varus so well, and Gango, he got the bullet time midway through that fight and used it to kill Archer at the end of it.
6-1-11 on that Misfortune.
6-1 and 11, Aria 7-0 and 5, and of course Nap at 0-0 and Town having a mighty performance on the Maokai as well. Really no threat onto that tank. CGA just looking like they know how their team comp works and fighting with so much confidence. Going into the replay now. Okay, right. So Boogie,
What a change of corruption.
yeah, so we see that Grendel goes forward, and then kiting. When Aphelios gets to kite back, normally you think there's some ability for him to turn around fights. He gets hit by the Chains of Corruption, hits, and finally cleanses onto the Twisted Advance there. Oh, not Twisted. Oh, and then there's just Boogie very close to killing Yoshi, trying to make sure there is at least a turnaround kill. But he just doesn't have the damage. He's not ahead in this game, which he is so used to being, and the damage just doesn't stick. There are just too many exhausts, too much peel, and not enough damage.
Really, really true. I've got to give a massive amount of credit to CGA's double AD carries who have been doing pretty amazing work here. Misfortune's definitely been living up to her title. She has been hunting all the bounties that V3 have ever put on their names, and the kill scores certainly not looking to give V3 any more bounties anytime soon.
No, this is just Toho. This is bullet hell. This is just, no, you gotta have your dancing shoes on. Make sure you dodge all of those kind of skill shots.
He's going to go in. The parallel convergence is there. So is the Protobelt. He just dashes forward, and those Bowels of Holly come straight back out, and the Twisted Advance is just that. Paz gets locked down by the Chains of Corruption. Takes half his health bar. Zhonya's be damned, he has to flash away to get the Dark Passage. Varus once again proving he is worth his weight in pain and gold.
This was the Hail Mary play, trying to make something happen on the map while they were losing in others, because 3 amassed members from the CGA lineup were taking down the bot lane inhibitor. There are still 3 people recalling from V3, trying to get back in time to save something of their base. Ari's going to shuffle the wave into the mid lane too. He's going to have his Banshee's Veil popped, rather his Edge of Night. There's a TP from Paz. This could be the last play of the game.
This is their Hail Mary. Yoshi decides I'm going to stop before that. The Cataclysm comes through. Infernum is on this. On Archer. Severum is there as well. Chains of Corruption land onto Reina, and he takes all the damage. Bullet time doesn't do all that much this time. But the double up doubles down, and it's a double kill for Varus, and he is taking this game into his own hand. Parallel conversion saves Boogie's life for now. The death scrap just missed, because all the death that's available is only for V3 right now. Paz is surviving for a little while. Does get Varus, and that's a big deal. Maybe he could do a lot, but it's not enough right now. Boogie's alive, but I don't think he's got the damage to do anything. He's got to throw down one last parallel convergence, one last roll of the dice. Yoshi flags, drags, slows, and this will be game 2 to CGA.
Statement game from CGA. We might have thought game 1 was a fluke. We could have passed it off, but in game 2, they slap a second time on the other cheek of V3, 2-0 to CGA. So, Mass 1, any thoughts?
I've always been a man that was raised to be able to swallow one's pride when proven wrong or corrected with facts. I will eat my words and say, this is the CGA that we saw in summer playoffs in 2019. This is the CGA that we were expecting to show up, to be honest, all the way back on episode 1 of the podcast. This was the CGA that we didn't see for 7 weeks and almost didn't see make it to playoffs. But they're
Glad
here.
they did.
And okay, yeah. Praise Arya, praise Yoshi. That's the apostle, right? That's like the prophet.
Just following in the footsteps of Arya, and one of the, so I remember way back in their week 3 matchup, I believe it was, in their first game of the regular split, I was
Against
saying,
V3, yeah.
maybe V3, maybe they can beat CJ because of a jungle difference. There's no jungle difference this game. If anything, Yoshi has been the person impacting the game more because Boogie, every time he's been diving in, has been countered. The peel play from Grendel on the defensive support of Braum with the extra exhaust, Arya taking that summoner spell as well, has absolutely blunted the jungler of V3, who has been their primary carry before.
And it looked like such a good start. That level 1 was a mess from CGA. Stood on a ward for so much of that early invade. Got caught out. First blood goes over to Jace. Boogie's at a great start. Then Yoshi finds a return level 2 gank off some nice sort of quick thinking to find that gank onto pass in the top lane. Then things like Gango surviving on slivers of HP, struts away behind the shield
Grendel
of Braum.
would die for him.
But quite literally, and like it was the fact that it was the thing where Jace's hammer form, he hits the E and knocks Misfortune behind the shield, so she survives behind the Unbreakable. Those tiny things meant that CJ snowballed to a lead where Arya and Gango put out absolute monstrous amounts of damage. It was a tsunami of arrows and bullets.
And it's worth noting that one of our narratives kind of coming into this playoffs, particularly for CGA, was how will their rookies perform? Playoffs are a different kind of beast. Okay, they won the tiebreaker. What are they going to do in playoffs? It's a very different kind of thing, playing in a best of 5. We all stand accountable to that fact now that actually they have stood up and been counted for. And maybe we now have to question V3 in a pressure scenario. The first series they played against Axes, they played comfortably. They weren't really stretched a lot of that series. Their laning phase went very easily into a lot of early objective control.
It did.
They are being pushed here, pushed to the limit. They are now 2 games down. It is reverse sweep time or die.
It is.
And
I
there
mean,
is this last thing.
all right,
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
One last thing. It's like can I possibly flip that question? If
Quick,
we've been questioning the
just
rookies
quick.
of CGA,
Just go.
if we're flipping the questions of CGA, should we be questioning the rookies of V3? What's Archer been doing? He went like 0, 5, and 4 in that game.
I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer. I mean, I don't know what's going through their mind or the mics, so I mean, I do not know. I mean, Archer, you could also just put it down to maybe the more potentially Gango and Grendel are just basically bullying this guy, and Reyna's not able to support him more effectively. You could put it down to that. You could just be down to the idea that CJ know what they're doing. But with that all said, we're going to go over to a very quick break over here on the LJL Officially Unofficial cast. We will be right back very, very shortly. Thank you so much for watching.